First question, very general. After reading the complaint, what do you think about the constitutionality of the argument that the Trump campaign is trying to make?
Well, generally speaking, it's more focused on the statute. As you know, in October, we amended our election laws to allow for things like drop boxes and expand the role of election challengers. And so there's basically three claims being made in this lawsuit. First, under the October law, election challengers are allowed to observe the counting of ballots, including absentee ballots. And so the first claim made in the lawsuit is that a particular election challenger was removed from Oakland County and didn't have the ability to meaningfully oversee the counting of votes. Now, they're allowed to do that, but they are not allowed to interfere in any sort of fashion. You can remove election watchers if they become disruptive. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happened there. It's not clear from the complaint. The second claim that's being made involves the drop boxes. Michigan dramatically expanded the use of drop boxes. One of the requirements, though, is that they be under video surveillance. And the Republicans are essentially arguing that we should be able to review all of these tapes of the video surveillance. And they claim that they've not been given access to view the tapes and see who's dropping off ballots and things of that nature. The law is silent on that. It says you have to do the video surveillance, but doesn't say who has access and who's allowed to look at it. And then finally, perhaps the most salacious claim is a claim that's been made that in a single situation, a ballot poll worker in Wayne County was instructed to change the date that a particular ballot was received. And again, we don't know any details on all of this, but there is a claim that in one situation, one ballot was misstated. We'll see whether that's true or not, but that's the third claim here.
That's a good explanation of everything. What do you think, as a law expert, as a guy who's argued cases in court, what do you think about the merits of their arguments?
Well, okay, we don't know enough facts to say definitively, but what this is really about, and what I will comment on, is if you look at the relief they ask for is they're asking to segregate all ballots from drop boxes from around the state, and to kick out essentially all questionable ballots, ballots where the election poll worker was not allowed to review what was going on. For me, that's a setup really for what's going to happen next. I think this is a setup case. If they're successfully able to argue that all these ballots should be segregated, which I doubt they're going to win, but if they do, then you've got a large number of ballots there that are under some form of taint, if you will, and it increases the chances that the Trump administration will either be able to get some or all of those ballots kicked out if they're segregated, and or increase the chances that they'll be able to successfully argue for a recount. Because in the state of Michigan, you don't get automatic recounts unless the votes are very close. You have to ask for it. And you can only get a recount if you can show that you have a meaningful chance or a reasonable chance of winning the election. Well, if hundreds of thousands of ballots are segregated, that increases your arguments for why you should get a recount.
I had somebody ask me that said, well, if they lose, they'll just appeal. And if they lose, they'll appeal. If they lose, they'll appeal. What are the chances that something like this could wind up before the 9 wise souls in Washington, D.C.?
Well, at this point, this case doesn't really, in my mind, have much of a constitutional federal basis. There is a claim for equal protection, that ballots are being treated unequally. And I will say that basic argument worked in Florida back in 2000, that ballots were being treated unequally. But it's a hard argument to make in this context, given that at this point they're trying to segregate ballots. So there is a claim there, but based on what I've read, I don't see much for the Supreme Court to chew on.